trick that I've learned from when I was a negotiator in the army. Whenever you want to know if someone is lying to you, you ask him a very simple question.
A lot of people say, well, if you care this much about innocent people being killed, why didn't you say anything when 1,200 people were massacred to death? Why did that not compel you to say anything?
Well, first and foremost, Israel's a foreign country, so typically I talk about topics that have to do with America.
I was working for the Daily Wire, which I'm kind of surprised how. You seem to be quite irresponsible in the wording that you're using.
My belief is that there has been too much loss of Palestinian life.
But that's different to genocide, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but okay, that's fine. We don't need to. That's what I'm saying. I don't know why you're like obsessing over this one word. It doesn't matter.
Well, because you tweeted about genocide.
You told me.
Is Candace Owens a double agent?
You're harping on this issue. There's a lot more topics we should talk about.
All right, welcome back, guys, and welcome to another episode of Habibti. Go to Gaza, come back. Let's talk. In today's episode, we'll be talking about no one else but Candace Owens.
Asking that question pointedly, what is genocide? Let us know, experts, what percentage of the population of Palestinians has to be killed before we are allowed to say that it's genocide.
But do you personally think it constitutes genocide, which is the deliberate...
What I'm saying to you is
I can tell you what
pursued on my show.
Yeah.
What is the number?
No, I understand.
What is the official number? That's it. I mean, somebody tell me and I'll give you an answer.
Well, I don't think there is a specific...
Try it when you have...
Well, it's not about a number.
Tons of people on both sides of the debate on.
Yeah, but it's not...
No. What do you mean it's not a number?
Here's my answer.
And do they give you an answer?
Well, no, because here's the point. It's not about specific numbers. It's about an intent.
But it has to be.
No, Candace, that's not a genocide. You obviously have no idea what you're talking about. A genocide is when you are trying to kill someone entirely, the entire population, and then when you start killing them, the population starts dropping down. Like what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust, like what's happening in Sudan right now to the Christians, and in other places in the world. Definitely not what's happening in Gaza. The other way around, actually. The only one in that war that tried to commit a genocide against the other was the Gazans against the Israelis. Hamas and other Gazan civilians who broke into Israel on October 7 and literally tried to annihilate all the Jews, and even said it, we're going to go and annihilate all the Jews. And in their charter, it says that they want to annihilate all the Jews and also later on to annihilate all the Christians and America, which obviously you don't seem to talk about that or care about that. Further, another problem that we have here, Candace, is that where were you on October 7? You didn't tweet anything. You're known to be someone that tweets a lot. But in October 7, October 8, October 9, all the days after, you didn't say a single word. There was 1,200 Jews, Arabs, Christians, Israelis who got murdered, butchered, and then later on kidnapped. Tens of thousands of people got injured. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people got displaced after that. You didn't tweet a single word. You didn't say anything about that genocide attempt. But now when Israel is obviously not trying to do a genocide, you will all over it, jumping on the anti-Semitic train, first row, and going around, Israel is committed a genocide. When obviously, the factual, you know what, let's read the dictionary. Let's read the dictionary definition of genocide. Definition of a genocide. Oh, that came first. The deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. And I think what Piers was trying respectfully to get you to understand, it's not about the number. It's about the intention. Because by your logic, the Allied forces, America included, have tried to commit a genocide against the Nazis. Because you know how many Germans got killed in that war? Way, way more than the Palestinians. So they try to commit a genocide against them. But that's what you seem to not understand. As someone who have no idea about warfare, let me try to help you. My name is Mansour. I'm an Israeli Arab. I was born and raised in Israel. I served in the army as an officer, and I think I know a thing or two about military operation. When you're fighting an enemy at war, and the enemy keeps fighting you and doesn't want to surrender, people die. And people keep dying until that war is finished. That doesn't mean that you have the intention of killing all the people in that nation. You want to defeat that enemy. And Gaza is at war with Israel, the war that they started. Hamas is not surrendering. Hamas keeps fighting Israel from inside of Gaza. Hamas keeps saying that he want to continue fighting Israel and continue doing whatever he's doing October 7 until the entire nation of Israel is annihilated, meaning having genocide to the Jews. So Hamas keeps saying, I want want to have a genocide to the Jews, keep saying in that case that they want to kill the Jews, murder them, they want to make another October 7 again and again and again until they annihilate the entire Jewish population, are still holding your hostages and fighting you. And not only that, even the civilians in Gaza, mind you, were part of the attack on Israel, were part of the rape and murder and atrocity, were part of kidnapping and holding civilians in their own house. The last rescue operation of the 4 Israelis were done from the house of a journalist and a doctor, innocent civilians. Civilians in Gaza are fighting actively against the IDF, are giving Hamas the location of the IDF soldiers, are holding hostages, harboring Hamas operatives in their houses, keeping information from the IDF about the location of the hostages, so the civilians in Gaza are themselves also not that innocent. So mind you, this is war. Israel is a country. Gaza started a war with Israel. They invaded first and tried to annihilate. They tried to make a genocide basically against Israel, and Israel is now fighting back in that war. And it saddens me to say, but it's the reality. In war, people die. And until the war is not over, until the enemy is not defeated, and especially when the enemy is using its people as human shields and embedded himself around them, hiding literally under them, and using them as the shield that he can fight from the refugee camps, from the schools, from the kindergartens, then the civilian casualties will keep growing until that war is finished. So if you want these casualties to stop, you should not want Israel to stop fighting. You should actually want Hamas to surrender and give back the hostages, and for the Gazan people to stop trying to murder and annihilate the Jewish nation, the Jewish people. That should be your rhetoric as a journalist, YouTuber, political analytic. So yeah, that's a freebie. That's a free tip for you if you want to do proper journalism. Just, on the house. Now here's something that I've learned from the world of negotiation. When I was in service, I served as a negotiator for anti-terrorism for some time, and during that time I studied psychology, human behavior. Here's one trick that I've learned. Whenever you want to know if someone is lying to you or being dishonest, you ask him a very simple question that there's no doubt about the answer. I'm talking a simple question. Let's say I'm asking you, is this a Snoopy cup? If you're talking to an idiot, then all you need to focus on is answer. If he tells you, no, it's not a Snoopy cup, then obviously he is lying or he's a complete idiot. Well, you kind of know that already. But if you're talking to an intelligent person, I think Candace is relatively intelligent, then you're not looking for the answer, because we all know the answer. It's a cup. She thinks of what she wants to tell you in order to make you think how she wants you to think. That's her answer. You're interested in the lack of answer or the manipulation around not answering. Let me explain. Is this a cup, Candace Owens? Or is Israel committing a genocide? We all know the answer. It's obviously not a genocide, and it's obviously is a cup. But suddenly the answer becomes, well, no, it depends on who are you asking, and some people can... No, I'm asking you, is this a cup? Well, it's not about, if it's not a yes or not, because you need to let me talk. And no need to let... Is it a cup? Yes or no? Is this Snoopy? Yes or no? And if they avoid the answer, if they run around, it means that they're hiding something. But more than that, it means that you've cornered them and that they cannot give you an answer. And what that usually shows is that there's someone behind them that doesn't want them to answer. Because there's someone behind them that wants them to present some kind of an ideology, want them to present some kind of a narrative. And if you corner them, they cannot do that because they will upset that someone. They will disappoint that someone. That someone might have deliberately told them not to do it or made them understand that they should not do it. And in this case, that someone wants them to sell the narrative that Israel is committing a genocide. And when you corner them, they can't really say anything against it because they're not worried about you. They're worried about that someone. And that is something that I've learned from the world of negotiation, from the world of psychology. It's something that I used to do when I was in the service. Part of the things that I did. And it's a freebie. It's a good tip that can help you in many aspects in life when you want to know the truth. The same thing happened when Piers was interviewing Andrew Tate. And Piers does a very good job at that, cornering people and asking them again the same questions like he did with Candace again and again, asking her, well, you said it's a genocide. Do you believe, is it a genocide, yes or no? If you remember, Piers asked Andrew Tate, Mr. Top G, I'm not part of the Matrix, is Hamas a terrorist organization? And Andrew Tate, who became a Muslim, kept avoiding the answer. And didn't want to say, yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization. He just said, it depends on, they didn't really behead the babies. And he says, no one is asking about the babies. They're asking right now, is it a terrorist organization? Well, and he was just going all around, and Piers kept asking. I think he asked him several times, is it a terrorist organization? Yes or no? Tell us your answer. These guys have literally live streamed themselves committing the most horrific acts of terrorism and murder in modern history. Can you tell us, are they a terrorist organization? And Andrew Tate was obviously more afraid from the gods of the money and from the Muslim world that he is now part of, and is giving him, the luxurious life that he can live now, allowing him to have multiple women and not holding him accountable for a lot of the crazy stuff that he will be held accountable if he would live in the West, for the ridiculous stuff that he did. Couldn't answer the question. And suddenly, from being Mr. I'm out of the matrix, you just became the biggest puppet of the Muslim matrix, because you cannot say anything that will upset them. So that is a very good way to see if someone is bluffing you and if someone is being honest with you. In the case of Candace Owens, what I think, the fact that she cannot tell you that this is a cup, that she cannot tell you that it's obviously not a genocide, is because her answer might upset someone. Now the important question is, who is Candace afraid of upsetting? Would it be Russia? Putin? Would it be the Muslim world? Like I said, is she a double agent ideology-wise to one of these people, to the communists or the Muslims? Obviously, even if you corner her, she won't give you the answer, because someone out there have told her or made it clear that this is the narrative that I want you to present, that Israel is committing a genocide. And that's what you go with. And that's why on October 7th, she didn't say anything to condemn Hamas. That's why on October 8, 9, and 10, she didn't say anything to stand by Israel. And that's why, right now, while she's claiming to care only about Christians, here, watch this. She said that.
I'm a Christian first, okay? And so my concerns are going to be with what's happening to Christians all around the world, because it is us. We are the #1 most persecuted religion in the world.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know what? If you're all about Christians and standing with Christians and standing for the right for Christians to defend themselves and standing for to stop the genocide against the Christians, why don't you start with Sudan? Why don't you start with other Muslim countries around the world that are literally trying to commit a genocide against the Christians? You know, the only one right now in the world that is trying to commit a genocide against the Christians are actually radical Muslims. I'm not saying all Muslims, but it's definitely, by default, are the only ones who are trying to commit a genocide against Christians. The only ones who are trying to commit a genocide against the Jews are Muslims. Gazans, for example, Palestinians. From the river to the sea, and etc., etc. Their charter just says that clearly, that they want to annihilate the entire Jewish states. They want to kill all the Jews, and later on they want to kill America, and etc., and etc. Again, I don't want to ask you to upset the people that are behind you pulling the strings, because obviously there's someone behind you that is making you afraid, I guess, or hesitant from. And if there's something I've learned in my life, through the time I was growing up in the street, I grew up as a street kid, and all the way to the time that I was in the service, in the military, is I can spot a liar and a bluffer. And when I'm listening to Candace, I can see both of them in her. She's not being honest, and she's trying to weasel her way, bluffing around the topic so she's not perceived as an anti-Semite, while pushing and promoting the agenda that the anti-Semites are trying to agenda, which is delegitimizing Israel from its right to defend itself and from its right to go and fight its enemy and its right to go and rescue its hostages, and trying to portray Israel as a genocidal nation, and apartheid, etc., etc. We've all seen that, and Candace just jumped on the anti-Semite train. Now here's the question. Is she jumping on that train because she's just trying to go viral, and anything that, she can sell herself to the gods of the algorithm to become viral, she'll do it? Does she really believe it? Because that'll be stupid, to believe that it's committing genocide, because as we know, this is not the definition of genocide. But let me give you another curveball that might help you understand a little bit more about warfare, because like I said, obviously you have no idea what you're talking about. In this war between Israel and Gaza, the death ratio between a terrorist to a civilian is standing on 1-to-1, at most 1-to-2. Do you understand how crazy that is? For example, when America or Britain or Europe had a war against terrorism, where you have a terrorist organization embedded themselves among the population, using population as human shields like Hamas is doing, and fighting against a Western country, the death ratio there, when America and Britain did it, was 1-to-10, at best 1-to-5, when they fought ISIS, when they went to Iraq and Afghanistan and Taliban, and etc. So do you understand that Israel is 1-to-1 compared to 1-to-10? That's not even close. Israel is actually schooling the world, including your country, about how to wage humanitarian warfare. And I'm talking numbers, not opinions anymore like you are just sharing. I'm talking numbers and facts. Because if Israel wanted to commit a genocide against the Palestinians, the entire population of Gaza would have been dead in a day. So to help you better understand, not only that Israel is not committing genocide, let's look at the numbers of the population of Gaza. And you can go and check it on Google or look at the graphs. Gaza's population have been growing faster than the American population in percentage. Gaza's population has been growing faster than the European population. So for Israel to be committing a genocide in Gaza, they are sure really bad at it. Because not only they're not succeeding in the genocide, they're actually getting the exact opposite result. Now, obviously, Israel can annihilate Gaza in probably less than a day, let's be honest. Any numbskull, any dimwit can read and see that this is not a genocide attempt. So if they want to make a genocide, why are they not making a genocide? And you know why? Because the answer is very simple. Because it's war. It's not a genocide. And there's a difference because there's no numbers that after that number it become a genocide. So as someone like you who have so many followers, who was working for the Daily Wire, which I'm kind of surprised how, you seem to be quite irresponsible in the wording that you're using. Unless, and that brings me to a very interesting thought that came to mind. Is Candace Owens a double agent of an ideology? Now let me explain. Is Candace Owens using her Christian values, her so-called traditional values, so she can skyrocket and get the audience that she is getting right now and that she's having in the US, only so she can show her other opinion, which is more pro-Russia, Putin, radical Islam, Palestine. My point is, when you started siding with Russia, started siding with, sympathizing towards Islam, and making it and idolizing Islam to look like they're better than Christianity. And then when you jumped on the anti-Semitic train, so you either did that because you want to go viral or you actually really believe that. As you can see, Candace, it's not about how many people died. It's about the aim, the intention. And the only one that we know right now in modern history, or at least in this particular war, that tried to commit a genocide against another group was Hamas. Hamas literally entered Israel with the intention to genocide all the Jews. They even said it. They airstreamed them. They live streamed themselves saying and trying to do that. Their charter says the exact same thing, that they want to eliminate all the Jews, and then later on they want to come and eliminate America and the rest of the Christians. And something that you like to mention is how the Christians in the world are suffering a genocide. That's something that you care about as a Christian. Well, you know what? The only people in the world that are trying to commit a genocide against the Christians, mind you, are the Muslims. Literally, that's the only one. Find me another group. No one. In Sudan, in Syria, in Iraq, in so many Muslim countries around the world, the only one who is suffering from a genocidal attempt are the Christians by the Muslims. And in this climate that we're talking about right now, the Middle East, the only one in the Middle East that is not trying to commit a genocide is the Jews. But the only one that you choose to point out and blame and falsely accuse of trying to commit a genocide is the Jews. Surprise, surprise. I wonder why did the Daily Wire think that maybe you might be an anti-Semite?
You referenced Andrew Klavan from the Daily Wire. I want to play a part of what he said, and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
The Daily Wire parted ways with Candace Owens, and part of it was things that she was saying that we felt were strongly anti-Semitic. And she was doing it in such a way that it was kind of hard to pin down, so I was trying to show where these things happen.
Maybe it's the fact that you're jumping on the Jews right now, right, left, and center as they try to defend themselves, creating false narratives that anti-Semites are doing and blaming them things that they're not done or they haven't done. But now you're all jumping on that viral train of blaming Israel and accusing Israel that they control the world, that they control America, and that they're trying to commit a genocide against the Jews. So if I need to tell you something, because obviously you don't know a lot about these things, is the most persecuted group on the face of this earth are the Jews, were the Jews, and sadly are still the Jews. So again, just giving you kind of a free tip here, free advice, take it or leave it, that's completely up to you. But until then, stop talking nonsense, be responsible. You have such a huge platform and you're spitting lies like this. Either go to the dictionary and read the definition of a genocide before you talk, or stop trying to lie to people and to convince them that there is a genocide when there isn't. Because there is a few places around the world that a genocide is happening, and that's not under the Jews. That's actually Muslims who are trying to make a genocide against Christians, against the Jews, and etc., and etc. Get your fact together. And until then, God bless. And the beginning of the fall of Candace Owens, in my opinion, started when she started idolizing Putin, siding with Russia over Ukraine. It further went when she was interviewing Andrew Tate. And if you remember, she was looking at him with admiration in her eyes like a teenager who was in love, and asking Andrew Tate to teach American Christian men how to be godly men and how to be family men. Are you asking Andrew Tate to teach Americans how to be godly and how to be a family man? The guy is literally a pimp. The guy started his career by almost practically sex trafficking women. His whole idea for a healthy life is to drive a Bugatti, smoke a cigar without a shirt, and sleep with as many women. I don't know how many children does he have that he's not being a father role in their life, that he doesn't even care or doesn't know. The reason that he is... You know what, forget about it. Don't be started about Andrew Tate. I think Andrew Tate, I'll give him that. He's a very smart man, and he did say a lot of smart things. However, Andrew Tate, as a criminal mind he is, jumped on the opportunity. That's my opinion. He saw a void, a vacuum that we have in our society today, especially in the social media world, of healthy manliness. And what he did, he jumped in and pretended to be the leader of healthy manliness. And he succeeded very much, and a lot of people started looking up to him. But he's not a good man. He's not a good role model. And when you were trying to make him look like a good role model, that to me was already, okay, what's going on with this girl? This is your example of a godly man, Andrew Tate. So that point, she already, in my eyes, started to kind of, whoa, something weird is going on with this girl. And then later on, the peak of it was when she started tweeting and saying things that are anti-Semitic. So let me help you, first of all, and maybe help educate you. But before we start, I would recommend, Habibti Candace, how about go to Gaza, come back, and let's talk. Because obviously you have no clue about what's happening in the Middle East. Now further, to help clarify things for you, the only one who did an attempt for a genocide in the last, let's say, year, because that's what we're talking about right now, was Hamas. They came with this exact definition of genocide and tried to do it to the Jews. The Jews are not trying to do a genocide to the Muslims, not to the Palestinians, not to the people of Gaza. So what happened to genocide? How come it's not? So here's the problem. With someone like you should be a little bit more responsible with the words that you use. Now, I have no problem if someone have an opinion and a concern about how the warfare is being waged. Okay, but use the proper wording for that. But to coming and jump on this anti-Semitic train, blaming Israel for things that are not doing, kind of puts you in a bad light. So Israel is not committing a genocide. We established that. Not only that Israel is not committing a genocide, in this warfare in Israel, the death toll of the Palestinians is probably the smallest death toll in any war that an Arab nation was involved. And you can look at the graph. They're literally here while the rest are here. The war against Iraq, the war against Iran, the war in Yemen, there's the war in Syria. In every one of these wars, they were so much more closer to the determination of genocide, but you didn't bother then. Only when it's the Jews, suddenly you start blaming them for things that they haven't done. Well, boy, that sure sounds like something that we know from the history, right? And that, I think, is a concern that people are having with you calling Israel a genocidal state. Aside from the fact that Candace have no clue about the Middle East, literally, Habibti, go to Gaza, come back. Let's talk. That's what I usually say to people who have no clue about the Middle East but like to talk about it. Go to Gaza, live there for a week. Go to Ramallah, live there for a week. Go to Tel Aviv, live there for a week. And then let's talk. Because I think then you will have a little bit better idea of what's really going on. And further, here's a freebie for you. Do you know how do they call black people in Palestine? In general, in the Arab world, but in Palestine. And I think that's something that probably, should be interesting for you. The answer is Abid. Do you know what's Abid? Abid is a slave. So the way they call black people in Palestine, they call them slaves. Now, don't let them try to bluff you or all their sympathizers telling you, no, it's not Abid, it's the slave of God. Slave of God is Abdullah. Abid, Allah. Abid is slave, Allah is God. Abid is only slave. So when you're calling someone Abid, you mean slave. When I was hiking Jordan, when I was walking the land of Jordan, I think I'm one of the first Israelis, I'm probably the first Israeli to ever hike the whole land of Jordan, one of the first Westerners to ever do that. I literally had to go sometimes and navigate and find footprints of humans and animals to find water and food. But whenever I came across a Bedouin camp or a Bedouin town, often I will talk to the local people. They will come to me, immediately and start asking me, who are you, where are you from, etc. But then when we have a friendly conversation, sometimes I'll ask them if they have some water or some food, and I'll barter with them or pay them for that. Sometimes they were very generous and they gave me that for free. But there were a few occasions that the Bedouin man was sitting and said, don't worry, I will call my abid and he will come and take care of you. And he'll just, send away. روح نادي العبد من هناك خليه يجي لهون. Go and call a slave from there, have him come here. And the slave was a black person. Surprise, surprise. It was never a white person. So if there's something that maybe I recommend that you put your attention as a proud African American, as someone who's all against slavery and racism, how about you focus your effort about the racism that exists in Palestine and in Gaza? Let's start with that. Crazy idea, I know. Free, on the house. Having this whole picture, seeing how she tries to idolize and admire people like Andrew Tate, trying to make it look like Christianity doesn't have the right family values that you should have in Islam or in Russia, seeing how she's siding with Putin over Ukraine, seeing how she is siding with Palestine and Gaza over Israel, seeing how she's blaming all kind of ridiculous stuff like a genocide is happening in Israel and not saying a single word when October 7 happened to the Jews, when 1,200 Jewish people were murdered in the most brutal way known into modern history, and on top of that, tens of thousands of people got injured, not a single word. It does make me think, is she a double agent? Whew, that's a big accusation. I don't know. But I'm just sharing with you what I'm thinking. Who is she answering to? That's a very good question. She'll probably tell you God. But I don't think so. I don't believe her. I think she uses that. I think she skyrocketed using Christianity, conservative values of things to rise all the way to where she is, and now she is revealing her true intention, which is way more towards Russia, communism, radical Islam, than towards Western civilization, America, Israel, and etc. That's my opinion. I might be wrong. I know I might probably upset a lot of Arabs and pro-Palestinians around the world, but hey, don't hate the messenger. I'm just bringing what I know as an actual Arab who grew up in the Middle East, was born and raised in that region, and know these things inside and out. So, until the next video, guys, thank you for sticking around. I hope this video was beneficial. If you enjoyed it, feel free to click the subscribe, like, share buttons, leave comments in the end, leave some questions. I always try to answer these questions, and many of the video ideas that I have are coming actually from the questions that you're leaving. So yeah, till then, guys, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and don't do anything stupid. In general, just don't do anything that I would do.